investing. So good afternoon to everybody, at least those of us in Asia. Thanks for joining us today. I hope you've all been keeping well and safe. My name is Carlos Camacho, and I'm the Head of Investments Development at Fundnel. And if you're not aware, we are a private investments platform focusing mainly on venture capital opportunities. And it's our goal to bring the best private deals to market using data and technology. But today, I'm delighted to be hosting the panel. It's about a subject that I'm sure many of us on the line have looked into, artificial intelligence. Is it an unavoidable necessity or risky business? So today we've put together a really experienced panel of experts in the space that will share their knowledge from various perspectives, from consumer and enterprise solutions to corporate innovations and VC investment specialists. So to introduce our panelists, on the founder side first, we have RJ Jain, who is the founder and CEO of Price.com, a San Francisco-based money savings platform that enables consumers to find the best price and obtain the most savings for a single product across a vast database of retailers and categories. It's a company we've looked into, and they have quite an impressive cap table, which includes the likes of Founders Fund and Social Capital. Prior to founding Price.com, RJ co-founded a company called Purify, which pioneered on-device debugging, CI testing, and performance optimization for mobile applications. And the company was actually acquired by Google in 2014. But prior to that, he has also held a number of engineering leadership roles at companies like Sidecar, the ride-sharing startup, and gaming company Zynga. So welcome, RJ, and thanks for calling in from Los Angeles and joining us at such a late hour. I know it's around midnight there for you.
Thank you, Carlos, for having me.
Okay, next we've got Marco Ganuna, who is the founder and CEO of Kronos. It's a Singapore-based company that uses AI for precise 3D live geolocation tracking without the need for conventional GPS, Wi-Fi, or cell towers. And thus can be deployed across a host of applications, including smart cities and buildings, to autonomous vehicles and logistics. Marco is a true industry veteran. He's been in kind of business and technology for over 35 years, and has received multiple awards for entrepreneurship throughout his career, including Entrepreneur of the Year by Ernst & Young Los Angeles. And his digital wallet was named Best New Device by Popular Mechanics back in 2000. So welcome, Marco, who is joining us from London at the moment.
Thank you, Carlos.
Okay, from the corporate world, we're pleased to have Marie Agathe de Plas, or Marie for short. I hope I got that right, Marie, who is a senior partner at Octavia, a boutique consultancy firm in Singapore that helps companies in Asia grow and innovate. So prior to Octavia, Marie actually held various roles at B2B services company Sodexo, where she's held a number of leadership positions and focused on forward-looking R&D projects, including robotics and artificial intelligence integration. So welcome, Marie. And last but not least, we have Terry Cho, who is an associate director at Alpha Intelligence Capital, or AIC, a Hong Kong-based venture capital fund that focuses on investing in deep artificial intelligence and machine learning companies. Terry oversees VC investments at AIC with a specialization in deep tech AI, and has led a number of transactions for the fund, including SenseTime, Rigetti, and K-Health. Prior to AIC, Terry was the team lead at VMS Group, heading the firm's technology investments. So welcome from Hong Kong, Terry.
Thank you, Carlos, and hello, everyone. AIC has teams in Hong Kong, San Francisco, and Paris, so we are a globally invested fund. We're very excited to join everyone here.
Great, thanks. I think that rounds out our very international field here today. Now, before we begin, I just want to remind everybody on the line that you can submit your questions at any time using the Q&A tab at the bottom of your Zoom windows. Just please let me know who you're directing the question towards as well, and we'll try to get through as many of them after the panel discussion as time permits. But without further ado, let's just dive right in and lay out the scene for the audience. So So nowadays, it feels like, every single company out there is touting some sort of AI angle to their various solutions. And we at Fundnel are guilty of it ourselves. We do the same, given that, we have an algorithm that helps to screen our deal flow. But I'd like to start off by going around the board and seeing where kind of each of our panelists draws the line in briefly defining a true AI solution. And for our founders, perhaps a brief explanation of how you use AI in your companies as well. But let's start with the ladies. Marie?
Yes, thank you, Carlos. Well, I'm not sure I want to draw a line, actually. I believe that there is no true or fake AI. I think the perception that we have with AI has changed over the years. And to be honest, a few years back, when I was talking to a company who was claiming to do AI, one of my first questions was to ask them, do you have your own algorithm? And I was focusing on algorithm. And my thinking, my belief at that time was like, if they don't have their own home-built algorithm, then it's not real AI, or they are not serious about it. Now I would tend to think the opposite. AI algorithms are developed in the labs, in universities. They are developed in the labs of the major players, whether Google or AWS or of course Microsoft as well, and many others. So, and it would be stupid in a way not to use what this guy are actually developing. So it's more today about using smartly the different blocks that have been developed than creating your own AI. And many people would say chatbot is not AI. I've heard that many times. Well, that's just a chatbot. This is not AI. I'm sorry, in a way, a chatbot is using a module of natural language processing, which can be qualified, should be qualified as AI. It's machine learning. But there are good chatbot and bad chatbot, and it's not because of the algorithm, it's because of the way the chatbot has been, designed, it has been trained and things like this. So I don't think that there is real or fake AI. I mean, you can really go into details, or you can use pre-packed modules that have been developed by others. Doesn't really matter at the end. It doesn't really drive the quality. The quality is how you smartly assemble the things.
Thanks, Marie. Carrie?
Yeah, I agree to Marie that it's a bit of a trick question that Carlos thrown out there for asking to draw a line, because AI is a very wide definition. And rather than drawing the line, maybe I can lend you guys my perspective as an investor, or here at AIC, where we are a deep technology, AI focused only fund. How do we define companies that is a good AI company? And how do we differentiate them from the two? And a little disclaimer, you don't have to be an AI company in order to be a successful company. It is just here at AIC how we narrow down our targets. So I think if you have to be an AI company under our concept, you have to have a full data infrastructure to capture all your data from end to end. And in that way, it lends yourself a path to evolve your algo over time, continue to improve them with a team's capability to do that. And that kind of lends itself to the machine learning notion that your algorithm is able to learn over time and improve itself. So for us, that's how we look at our targets.
Great, thanks, Carrie. Marco, do you want to go next? Sorry, you're on mute, Marco.
Yeah, I listened to you too well. Basically, the way I see it is that whatever solves a problem. So drawing a line in the sand, okay, you of course, this is important to see at what level you're finding yourself. But whatever, you may have the best AI in the world, the deep machine learning, everything together, but it will not work, or it will not be successful. So for me, what is interesting in AI is whatever solves a real problem. And that's simple. So, and to continue to your questions about how we use AI, in our company, actually our technology, we are a startup, so the company doesn't have AI in itself, but our technology uses AI, and our technology is situation awareness solution. Basically what it does, it tracks movements of everything moving, meaning it could be people, objects, and for sure every electronic devices under our mesh network. Without the use of the internet, without cell towers, without GPS satellites, and when you are under active tracking, so it's like you put a mesh, the smallest mesh is like 3 anchors that you put, and those 3 anchors will cover a perimeter of 50 meters by 50 meters by 5 meters, up to 300 meters by 300 meters to 25 meters high. And anything that moves in this environment will be tracked, detected, and will be located. So, and the way it works, and I'm going to be very short about this because I don't want to go too technical. It's like each devices have multi-radio frequency in the devices. And depending if you are indoor or outdoor, it does also, of course, 3D. So you will see people going up and down when you can pair any screens on each device and you see what the other devices see. So we run 6 algorithms at all time. And with a point of history and a sensor fusion, they each process their own data and their own location, and they each declare where they are every 20 milliseconds. So everybody is talking to everybody all the time and locate themselves. So that's basically I don't want to go deeper than this for describing the AI, but that's basically the 6 algorithm with the point of history and the sensor fusion that decides where you are and it needs to be done in 20 milliseconds. So okay, that's the extent.
Thanks for that, Marco. Yeah, I've definitely spoken to you about your tech, and it's taken over an hour at the very least. So yeah, I appreciate you being brief today. But RJ, do you want to go next?
Yeah, for me, like I totally see all the time companies call themselves an AI company, and it becomes the latest marketing buzzword. Many companies categorize themselves as AI-based, and all they're doing is using platforms like Tableau to visualize and analyze data. Another common example I've seen is companies use machine learning for use cases where traditional statistical methods, example Bayesian statistics, would achieve roughly the same results. I believe if companies are not using supervised and unsupervised deep learning, pattern recognition, and complex neural networks, then they're not providing true AI-based solutions. A true AI company can solve problems that were formerly impossible for humans to solve, or too time-consuming or labor-intensive, or that require complex human intelligence to solve. The most spectacular example is self-driving cars.
Great, thanks, RJ. And do you want to give a brief explanation of how you use AI at Price.com?
Yeah, so at present, Price.com uses AI, and it's for product matching engine that matches both structured and unstructured products across all retail formats, new, used, refurbished, rental, private label, and offline, to offer consumers advanced comparison shopping. And also we use it for web scanning technology and for categorization and normalization of our 1+ billion product catalog. We have plans to expand our AI capabilities by incorporating the latest improvements in deep learning to further enhance the existing product matching technology and for our visual search as well.
Great, thanks for that, RJ. Yeah, and I love the fact that you got the domain price.com as well. I know we've talked about this, but yeah, very impressive. Okay, so now that we all know what you consider to be AI or an AI solution, I'd like to start off by asking our investor on the call, Terry, how do you typically evaluate AI startups and separate the bad from the good from the great companies?
Yeah, thanks for that question. It's our favorite question here in AIC, and that's what we do every day. I kind of want to lens to what RJ has talked about when he was trying to classify a true AI company. He's actually mentioned a lot of what a great AI company would possess when he mentioned about like being able to crunch structured and unstructured data. And back to my earlier point of defining a good AI company with a full data infrastructure, and what goes one step further into a great AI company is that at AIC here, we really love companies that has a full stack technology solution. So to RJ's point, for example, if you have to build an autonomous driving company, you will have a full stack capability that you build your solution end to end. And I think a good analogy for that is that, for example, if you're a winemaker and you're making a bottle of wine, a full stack solution team would be able to control the entire process from maybe planting the soil from the grapes all the way to production. And in a way that when something goes wrong in the process, say, maybe you find that too acidic as a wine, you want more floral scent in the wine, then you can actually go all the way back to one part of the production, even all the way back to the grape, and say, I will change the mixture or the production of the grape in order to improve the entire technology. And here is in AIC what we're really excited to see about companies or some of our portfolios with great deep tech solutions that we love to find. Great,
thanks, Terry. I love that. As a self-proclaimed wine nerd, I love that analogy. Yeah. But founders, I hope you were taking notes there. But I wanted to ask you, what are the biggest hurdles you face, each of you, as AI-driven companies when it comes to fundraising from people like Terry? So let's start with you, Marco.
I mean, the biggest hurdle is that I think when you innovate, okay, you basically you are not in the market. You innovate, you create. And most companies that are out there, investors, are mostly interested in companies that already sold products. And this is I think the biggest problem that we face, where you have access only to a certain type of investors, not the big guys. At the same time, when you find this the rare investors that would want to step in, I'm talking about the large companies that want to put a large amount of money, the covenants are extremely difficult to follow. Why? Because you are actually exploring, bringing new intelligence into something that does not exist. So the timeline, you can never control the time, because some of the things that you want to do are basically not doable. You have to invent it from scratch. So you may be late delivering, and when you're late delivering, then you have those companies that hits you, and then you are basically in trouble. So I think this is the biggest problem, is what I just mentioned. The second problem is competency, is that there is a lot of people that we meet that kind of understand a little bit of this, kind of understand a little bit of that, kind of understand a little bit of this, but they don't see the global impact that the new technology is doing. Number one. Number two, there is no competition. Today we have no competition. We wish to have competition. We will have competition. And we like it because first, it will confirm the market we are in. Second, it will give us a valuation, okay? But today, there are companies doing the same thing we do, but they just do a little part of it. They are not scalable the way we are. They are not resilient. They are not multi-witnessed. And most important, they are centralized. They are not localized, because our technology is mainly processing data locally. This means that nobody from the outside can get in. It's encrypted, it's secure, okay? And in terms of privacy, because everybody is telling, oh, Marco, you're gonna know everything about everything. If you know, we're not going to know everything, and we don't wanna know everything about everything. We wanna know only when there is a problem. That's it. And it's not even us knowing. It's just one entity that is a customer, which could be a corporation in their building. They want to have a secure building, or it could be a government that wants to know part of the country, what's happening, and to make sure that it's very secure. Then the only thing we bring is a digital ID. So we have two ways of tracking. The first way is active tracking with this little device that will become a chip within a year and a half. This is $11 million of investment. And it will become very small. And then as you go forward, it's going to be hopefully everywhere. So the problem we are facing today is that, number one, the fact that we're not shipping yet. We're going to be shipping in the next 7 months. Hopefully, we already have some. We have some paid proof of concept. We have some pilots being worked on. We have some major proposal out in the market to government entities, not only in Singapore, but also now in Europe and soon in the US. And so that's basically the two major issues that we see. And one of the main ones is competency of the people that are talking, because they don't really understand what we're doing.
Right, thanks. Yeah, that's something I get from founders quite a bit, that frustration. But yeah, totally understand. Okay, so RJ, you want to talk a little bit about the hurdles you face when you've been fundraising?
So, yeah, for me, like I believe like investors need to have a basic understanding of the talent required, engineering challenges, and turnaround time to implement or even improve AI-based solutions. I feel like the biggest questions are usually based around misconceptions and how long it takes to make even a marginal improvements to AI-based models / technologies. Another big factor is, since every company is labeling themselves as AI companies, it is very hard to distinguish between what is actually an authentic AI-based technology versus who is just using it as a marketing tool for fundraising. This can lead to companies putting through AI-based solutions being undervalued for the innovative or even groundbreaking technology they are developing. So I feel like these are the couple of hurdles that I've seen while fundraising right now.
Great, thanks, RJ. Now I want to take it back to Marie, actually. So I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on the deployment of these AI solutions across companies in Asia? So what kind of things have you seen? Where have you seen AI deployed most commonly? So either, that could be types of companies or divisions within companies. And how are they deployed? So are they usually developed in-house with partners or acquired?
Well, that's a lot of questions in one, but I'll try to take it one by one. I would say we could identify 3 types of company or 3 types of business leaders, because it's always a matter of people and how people perceive also AI. And we know that within the large public, there is a lot of buzz, there's a lot of fake ideas about AI, there is a lot of myth, utopian, dystopian, and things like this. And actually, business leaders are people, so they hear the same thing, and they have different kind of attitude. Some of them are like, they put a lot of hope in AI. They see it a bit like a magic wand, and they have heard about a good story about that company who have done that and have implemented AI, and this have solved that, and they don't realize that it's not a plug and play. AI is never a plug and play thing when you're in an organization, right? It requires a lot of setup. It requires a lot of internal data and structured data. So it's never a plug and play. So this is one of the situation. Other situation, you have the leaders who will say, "Oh my God, that's too complex for me. I'm gonna get lost. I do not want to touch it, or if I go for it, I need to hire the top-notch machine learning guys from and poach them in Google or wherever. And if I have the great guys, it will make it happen." No, that's not true neither. And sometimes you have the leaders also. Another type would be, and this happens very often with the technology. People think that, wow, that goes fast, so I will wait for the next generation. So they are convinced that AI can be good. They know it's not easy. They are quite conscious about the challenges and the benefits, but they just don't know when is the right time for them to jump in. And the timing is for a company who is doing, regular business and who wants to improve the business through AI. It's difficult to know when it's the right time to jump in, because it's never the right time. things are changing. So yes, there is always a change that the technology become obsolete and things like this. But with AI, the good point is that the technology is growing. So your algorithm are learning with you because you fit him and you're getting better. And so I would say it's always the right time to go in and to start going. Now the way to do it in-house and or outsource. As I say, some people think that they need to hire the best of the best and the cream of the cream to be in the team so they can do it. And some other people think that because they have a decent IT department, they can do it. I'm sorry, it's not. You can be a great IT guy and know nothing about AI, and that's all right. So I would say it's maybe it's a smart way to do it is to ask help from outside for AI expertise, for people who can really bring a part of the solution. And then you need people in-house who are knowledgeable with data, who will be able to handle your own data in order to plug an AI solution correctly to your company, because it doesn't plug like this, it plugs to your data system, and your data need to be well organized and structured, and you need people to manage it in-house. So it's a bit of both, I would say. Where it's to know where are the common places where it's applied today and it's deployed. I would say it's what we hear, and also most commonly it's you have all the segment of what I could call it attentive watch. So it could be surveillance, it could be attention, video, image recognition to detect the start of a fire for security reason. There's a lot of application in security. So companies would bring that. And this one is almost a plug and play, because it's a security feature that you plug on your camera system, and okay, you need to organize it a little bit, but the data comes from the video streaming. So it's not that complex to install. So that could be a good example. You have all the category of resource optimization. Resource optimization, I include what is predictive maintenance. Industrial companies are doing this more and more now. To just listen to the early signal of failure and things like this through, study, put a lot of, gather a lot of data around different parameters, different sensors, and put that in an AI engine to really detect the early signs. So that's also a typical one. Another one would be what is about personalization or targeted content. That's exactly what the ARJ is doing. That's a typical one. And the other one is also very commonly seen now. It's the automation of what we could call repetitive intelligent tasks. So they are repetitive, but they're not stupid tasks. And AI is very good at that. I mean, like fraud detection in banking. It's something which is not that easy to do, but it's very repetitive, and AI is very good at that. So a lot of banking now are using AI for fraud detection. It can be, medical diagnosis, the same when you're reading, and more, of course, it's used in this domain. So in this domain, we know that AI is working, and corporate also recognize that. They know that solution exists and solutions are working like this. What usually they may not be conscious about is how difficult or how easy it is to plug in. Sorry, I was a bit long, but
No, that was perfect, Marie. And I'm sure you gave RJ a little plug, and I'm sure a lot of it was music to Marco's ears as well, since I know Cronus is being deployed in kind of security and surveillance situations as well. So yes, I want to move on to Terry and get your kind of investor's perspective. In which kind of sectors and subsectors do you see the most attractive AI opportunities? And what does the split between kind of consumer, enterprise, and gov tech look like to you?
Right. So Yeah, so first let me just maybe talk about what sectors are best positioned to like machine learning AI field. I think these are sectors where every step is measurable. For example, you can translate physical properties into measurable data points. As Marie mentioned, some sectors are very good at that, and that is cybersecurity, where from the information enters the system, you can measure, track all of them. So, and actually, these are the sectors that historically has been very successful in deploying AI, including cybersecurity, healthcare, and fintech. And these are one of the sectors that we have actively pursued. We have invested in 2 cybersecurity companies, one in the UK and another upcoming one in Asia. And to your second question about the split between enterprise and customers, here's my take as an investor, and I'm happy to be contested. I think actually today most of the companies would be a B2B focus, and it kind of shows in our portfolio. We've invested slightly over 70 million. We're not even half deployed yet. We're at 70 million invested over 16 companies globally. 90% of our companies today are B2B focused. So for example, the more major ones that you would know about, the late stage companies, SenseTime, the largest unicorn in China, the last round was 7 billion, and they are going to close the latest round 10 billion in the coming 2 weeks. So they are entirely B2B serving today. Serving large corporation from Alibaba, the Chinese government for smart cities. But then, having said that, there will be B2B elements that lends itself to B2B2C. So for example, SenseTime, using its computer vision and facial recognition, also powers Meitu Shou. So it's a beautifying app in China, extremely popular. Every lady uses it. So they are using SenseTime's facial recognition technology to beautify everyone, and then it hits consumer. So, and we think the nature of that is just because just the nature that only enterprise today will have a larger budget to incentivize AI innovation and growth by rewarding innovative companies to, especially AI companies, to innovate and continue their R&D development. And I kind of want to throw a statistic out there for everyone to think about. So, which was a surprise to me. So, what do you guys think, panelists and Carlos alike, was the average AI budget in companies in 2019, and that is before COVID? You can give me whether you think it's a $6, 7-digit, 6-digit, or even other digit numbers. You're muted, Carlos.
Yeah, I'll go with maybe 6 figures. I think Marie is probably going to get the closest to this. What do you think, Marie?
No, yeah, I'll probably no. I honestly, I'm not sure. But I would say also around 6 figure.
You're both very correct, but it's a low 6-figure because it was only 100K, 100,000 US in 2019. And I'm hoping to see a very different number in 2020 post-COVID. But the fact is that these are not evenly distributed amongst organizations. Only larger corporates will have $1 million budgets to throw at really good AI companies to innovate. So my answer short to you is just, it will be B2B prevail in the coming few years, and then we'll see a shift towards consumer.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Terry. So I want to go back to Marco, since we've kind of touched on enterprise and consumer, but haven't really dived into government technology yet. I mean, Terry talked about China a bit, and you can kind of argue that there is some government interference there in many ways. But from I want to get your take on a more pure public and private partnership. So I know Kronos is in discussion with a number of governments around the world. So from your experience, how are governments looking at AI solutions, and what types of solutions do they tend to be interested in? And Marie as well, feel free to chime in afterwards if you have some thoughts as well on this.
I think the interest is multifold. The first interest in our technology is that it's a situation awareness, and the data that is being created by the location of electronic devices moving in 3 dimensions, indoor, outdoor, seamlessly, And not only, you don't want to see everything, you want to see only when there is a problem. So here, for example, I'm showing you how it would look like in a building, where you would have, I don't know if you see this, but you would see a building, a blueprint of building, and people on the side where you have the name of the people, you have XYZs, and then you have you can enlarge this, and you see the movement of objects and people. Then our goal is to have this not only in a building, in a port, but in a country all over. But you want to see this only if you have a problem. So you have pre-parameters that are being set in each devices. It's very easy to do. And if the parameter is reached, like for example, one of the use cases, which is actual use case that we are working on developing, is for COVID, where you would have our mesh network, and in some part of the city or a building or a port, you would have a thermal camera that will locate somebody with fever, okay? And with the movement of this person, we will link the movement of, usually they always have a cell phone on them. So you can link the movement of the cell phone and the heat and get the digital ID of the person, okay? Just a digital ID, but also at the same time, you get the history, the proximity, and the future of where it's going. Unless, of course, you intervene. And this is one, for example, for hospitals, for building owners, or for people that wants to know what's going on and to make sure that the people that are in the premises are not going to be affected by this person. I think it's a very important use case. And this is one of the use cases we are working on. The other use case that is very important, I think also, is like we are working on a proposal for on Sentosa, where we will cover the entire island of Sentosa, and in each lamppost we will put our mesh network, and also in building exit signs. So, and the staff will wear an ID card that will be like as big as like 4 credit cards. This is just a prototype, working prototype, and in the cars. So they will have the visualization of the entire island like this, not just a building, but the entire island. And they will measure the productivity of the staff, number one. Number two, make sure that they are at the right location at the right time. But most importantly, for the visitors, to see what are the heat maps, where you could do crowd, when you have social distancing, to make sure that the heat maps are being under control, to even marketing wise for why all the tourists going this at that time and not there. That's number two. Number three is public safety. If there is a problem somewhere, and you have access to this private network, sorry, it's changed. But when you have access to the private network, you know who is where, when, and how. So you know who is on which floor. So you can really imagine if we had this technology in some of the issues we had passed with, terrorism, etc. So this is the kind of use cases that we are working on, where the situational awareness of people, objects, and to make sure that to prevent and to be proactive to prevent a problem. So that's basically what's being discussed in Singapore. It's being discussed in other countries, in Europe now, and it's now also in the US.
Great, thanks, Marco. Yeah, so I want to take it back to Marie. I know you discussed kind of different types of leaders within enterprises earlier, and Marco just discussed kind of Singapore and how, Singapore is, at least on the government level, leaders have been very open to the idea of implementing AI solutions at a country level. I just want to get your perspective. Do you believe that leaders, whether in enterprise or governments or whatever, and technologists are aligned internally? And what do you think they're typically wary of and hopeful for?
Okay, I would say, of course, they are not aligned. Of course not. And that's they naturally should not be aligned because they are pursuing different goals. So it's not a problem, but it's a problem if it stays like this. They have to align. So it's normal not to be aligned at start, but they need to work on that. Definitely, what happened very often is that between leaders and technologists, that there is a lack of communication. Each time there is a misalignment, in a way, it's valid for everything. It's very often, it's a problem of communication. So I believe that the leaders have to, the technologists first, have to make an effort to explain that technology in simple words, in a simple way, so the leaders can understand. And for that, it's not easy because sometimes the technology is very complex, and also because, you know, the technologist is an expert. So it needs to be very humble in a way to say, okay, I can explain my technology in simple words, and it might mean that my technology is simple. And I'm not looking so much as a very brilliant expert. No, that doesn't matter. You have to be able, if you're brilliant, you have to be able to explain things in simple terms. Secondly, on the other side, the leader has to be able to make an effort to take some time and attention to this technology. And also it's not easy because they are busy people, and because it's also require a lot of humility, because you have to acknowledge it's something, you're the boss, and you have to acknowledge you understand shit about it. I'm sorry, but this is usually what happened, and that's what Marco was saying earlier. People understand a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and they don't want to say, I don't understand, explain me in simple words. And you have to be humble in that, and to communicate, to say the truth, and to be transparent. And at the end, I mean, AI project is like any innovation project. You need to have, you need to go through different things and alignment, and the leaders and the technologists have to go through the different steps of project management, which is first you align on the objective, you analyze the expected results, you evaluate the risks, possible roadblocks, and then you assess the resources needed, how much time, how much people, how much money, which kind of talent, outsource, insource. You have to decide all that. And during that time, you need to speak the truth. So, and you need to be clear about the risk is this, but it's not that. I mean, do not exaggerate the risk. Technologists sometimes do exaggerate the risk because they are careful people, and sometimes also they might underestimate the resources needed or the time needed, and the business. So they have to align, because technologists and leaders live on different time scale also. So they have to align on all that. So if they do the preparation of the project and the project management together, it's all right. An alignment is needed, definitely. And sometimes you need someone to facilitate, to be honest. Sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes, like yourself, of course.
Yeah, like myself or like anyone else. But you need
Right.
people who help them talk. I mean, it's like
right.
like a facilitator or moderator, or it's like what you're doing now. You help people talk and express on the line, and that's the same in a company. And so that's it. So alignment is not natural, but it can happen.
Right. I understand. Thanks, Marie. Now switching gears a little bit. So moving a little bit more to the consumer side of things. So let's go to RJ. Antitrust has been a hot topic in several parts of the world, maybe everywhere except for China. But where do you kind of see governments drawing the line between protecting consumers' data and allowing companies to add value for their consumers in interesting and innovative ways? And where do you kind of personally draw the line at price.com?
Right. So in the context of Silicon Valley, there has been a lot of concern that tech giants are gathering too much personal user data and then potentially selling it. The government is drawing the line by implementing stricter regulations to promote transparency between consumers and businesses to enforcing laws like GDPR, which you might have heard about. So users are fully informed on how the data is being utilized. Protecting user data and ensuring consumer privacy is a top priority and core value at Price.com. While we improve our technology and platform by aggregating data across all consumers, we will never sell personalized user data.
Got it. Thanks. So staying with our founders here, what do you think are the major threats to AI companies in terms of IP, so intellectual property and disclosure? Or do you believe that your technology is advanced enough, that deep enough, that it in itself is enough of a moat to protect you from competition? And I'd like to start off with RJ, since you've got the giant Google in the same swimming pool as you're swimming. So let's start with you.
So I would say for me, like when filing a patent for AI technology, much of the process has to be disclosed, from like how data is collected, how it's processed. But by disclosing the process, it also allows others to replicate it. I heard this story like Coca-Cola never patented the secret formula to ensure that competing beverage companies couldn't replicate the recipe. So I believe like filing patents to protect IP is an important part of companies' development and growth. However, it takes an immense amount of time, money, and engineering talent and effort to grow an AI-based company from a ground up, and is not easily replicated with or without protection of the core technology or the platform. So yeah, I feel like deep technology itself is a large enough moat to justify that.
Great. And how do you feel about this, Marco?
I have a specific, basically, it's always a danger to have something so advanced, and when you deal with a customer, whomever they are, and you deal with the engineering group, and they always want to see what it is and how it works, etc., etc. And I've had some past things that happened, like on the iPod, on digital wallet, that where we filed for a patent with the USPTO, and we were with Omegni Myers, which is a big IP firm in the US, and we never got a patent despite the opinion letter saying that we would get it. And it was in 1999. This is when and the product name was Digital Wallet. Then 3 years later, in 2003, you have Apple that comes out exactly with the iPod, and the digital wallet was a precursor of the iPod. We were never able to get the patents, so there is nothing I could do. That's number one. Number two, I would why don't you look at the Wired, the magazine? They have in the past few articles about startups that are coming out with something amazing, and suddenly you see patent on the large companies, corporations, that having exactly the same thing, where startups were not able to get the patents, but those companies have. And this is Wired magazine. So this is number two. Number three, concerning us today, happily, the IP is not in the hardware. We don't care about the hardware, really. I mean, the only reason why we have hardware today is because the phone is not capable yet to provide us information. We need to feed our algorithm and to bring the situation awareness. So all our IP is into algorithm. We have today 13 granted patents, and I'm very happy about this. And let's say somebody steals this or take it, or even if we give it away, it will take probably a year and a half to 2 years to re-engineer and go to the level we are today. And by that time, we will be well ahead, because we have a very specific roadmap that is very different than what you see today. It's going to evolve into something very, very robust. So it is very scary for a startup to open up, because you have to open it. If you sell to a customer, you have to explain them how it works. But happily, you know, as you are AI and algorithm, and it took us many years to come up to to have this accuracy, because we can go up to an accuracy of up to 1 meter and 1 second. Every devices announce the location every 20 milliseconds. And the accuracy when it's active, it's up to 1 meter and 1 second. So you literally see people moving like this. And if it's line of sight, it's even more precise than 1 meter. So talking about IP, we feel very safe today that to deal with customers and opening up what we have. And they would rather work with us than trying to copy us. That's what I think.
Okay, thanks, Marco. So Terry, I think, yeah, that is good. But I think Terry, so you've heard kind of two different perspectives here. You've got Marco, who's kind of been burned before from not, you know, having the right IP protection and now takes it very seriously. And then you've got RJ on the other hand, who believes, you know, his engineering talent has built a sophisticated enough solution that would be hard to replicate. But I want to get, from your perspective as an investor, how do you think about IP protection when looking at AI companies?
Yeah, I think both RJ and Marco are very right in their approach. So I think it's a little different in the context that they've spoken in. So RJ was speaking mostly from like a software perspective, and Marco mostly in the hardware realm. So first of all, I think almost for most software companies, even if they do patent the technology, they're not going to patent the entire life cycle, especially the secret sauce of their technology. So in that way, it enables them to protect the most proprietary parts of their base codes. And sometimes, you know, even within an organization, it is limited to only certain members of the company to assess those, you know, as a layer of protection. And to Marco's realm, that in the hardware realm, I think it is more prone to file for patents for hardware. It's just simply because hardware technology are more tangible, and when you're more tangible, it is just easier to patent, hence easier to protect. Whereas for the software that are slightly more intangible, even if you submit a paper that has you know, your methodology in doing so, it doesn't mean that, you know, it is tangibly protected under the patent. And I think in a way, your patent strategy also is almost, you know, it's determined about the location that you are in. Marco is in London, RJ is in the US. I think in US companies, we're very, you know, we like to see our companies technology patented if possible. But there are also companies that are in China where your trade secret is way more valuable than having to publicize and patent your technology. And I think recently there's been an interesting example in our portfolio, which is Osaro Inc. from San Francisco. They provide state-of-the-art picking solution for e-commerce, robotic software. I think this is the hardest problem that every logistics supermarket is trying to solve today. And they are already deployed in the US and Japan with their partners, but they would be very cautious when entering the Chinese market, especially if they are asked to deploy on premises, because there's also the risk of reverse engineering, like Marco mentioned. Although it might take them years, but it will still make your use case obsolete, and that is the danger right there. So in those cases, we would actually, you know, support them deploying in markets that they feel safe, with good partners that they can launch in prior to tackling, you know, China, which is potentially the biggest e-commerce logistic market that they can ever tackle. But I guess the point is choose your partners and choose your playgrounds carefully for those.
By the way, I might add something, is that we have also granted patents in China for communication and geolocation. I was like, you know, very happy when we heard that. So. And you're right, Terry, when you say when you do a patent, I mean, our IP is into algorithm, into AI. It's not actually the hardware. We have the hardware just to support the situational awareness needs we have. So concerning the, we patent the trunk of the tree. We never disclose the branches and the leaves, because this is just a blueprint of how to do what we do.
Exactly, and that's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks both. I'm just conscious of time here, so I want to get onto one final question for all the panelists, just really briefly, bringing it closer to home, at least for us here in Asia, I'd just like to get your take on kind of the growth of AI in general. So you can be as specific or broad as you want to be, especially since countries like Terry mentioned, like China, but also Japan, South Korea, and Singapore have all been making major strides in the AI space. Just want to get your take of where do you think AI is going in the region. So let's start off with Marie.
Yeah, thanks, Carlos. Well, I can't speak for all the country, but what I'm certain of is that Singapore is a big, high potential in AI, and for different reasons, because there is a big push from the government and there is a big inflow of money and investment, public and private, in Singapore for AI. There is a structure also now. The government decided to do something on AI, and it was, I remember I saw it happen like 2 or 3 years ago. You could feel something will be happening, and now it's everywhere. You have a lot of organization, whether it's A-Star is working a lot on AI as well, even they are not AI specific. You have AI Singapore, you have SG Innovate, who is focused very much on deep tech as well. So you have a lot of structure. You have many incubators, launch pads linked to universities or to large companies who have their own launch pads and all. And honestly, it's moving fast, and Singapore is a great place to do business. We all know that. So I see Singapore as a very high potential. Now, other countries have other assets, like sure that Vietnam and Philippines have developed a very a lot of IT resources, IT skills. So they are one step away to move to AI skills. So they could also be higher, but I see Singapore as a leader in the region. Of course, China is a giant, and it's not, but for me, it's a world a bit apart in AI, and they are focusing a lot on their internal market now. So I see for Southeast Asia, Singapore, for sure.
Great, thanks, Mary. And as a Filipino, I'm happy to hear that you think that our engineering talent is definitely up there, and I would have to agree with that. And I hope it continues to develop to that level.
No doubt they will. On the right path.
Thanks. But now, RJ, I know you're mainly a U.S. company, but are you looking to Asia as a potential growth market for you, and how would you kind of plan to enter the market if so? And as a founder, I guess, just speaking on kind of engineering talent in the region, what do you think of Asia as a potential source of engineering talent for AI?
Yeah, so we are looking to enter the Asian market. E-commerce is booming in Asia, as the majority of the region is now online, both on mobile and desktop. Also, emerging web-based technologies have a rapid adoption rate throughout Asia. Our primary goal is to solve problems. We don't care where the talent is from. We already have actually a large portion of engineers within the company based in Asia right now, and throughout other regions of the world as well. And now that many companies are transitioning to being remote-based because of COVID-19, it has become far more standard to maintain a global team. So I feel like some of the best and brightest people I'm meeting from Asia right now, so I'm pretty excited about hiring more people from Asia as well.
Thanks, RJ. And you, Marco?
About Asia, I know Singapore, I think, well enough to say that I'm very impressed with the efforts I'm making to be always on the, on the top edge of technology and trying to create and invite and creativity in Singapore. I know, but China also is very much into pushing this forward, especially with all these cameras and intelligence they are putting behind it. I don't know. I don't think it's the same case for Japan and or Korea, although I'm not very familiar with it. But I can confirm that Singapore is very impressive. They've devoted a lot of funds for creativity, for AI, and I think they are reaching to the top. amongst all countries in the world.
Thanks, Marco. And you, Terry?
If I may add something, yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, about Singapore is that they are capable today because they have built this ecosystem to attract talent from everywhere. So when I say Singapore is probably be one of the big leader in Asia for AI, I don't mean only Singaporean, they are doing efforts also to develop the skill of local people in university, but they also attract people and researchers from everywhere, from Europe, from US, from China a little bit, but so there is an attractiveness. So where to make it happen here, this is why.
Yeah, I wouldn't repeat on what Marco and Mary has well captured about the Singapore market, but maybe I can talk a bit about the Chinese and then maybe the Japanese Korean market a little bit. So I think China remains, having said about the downside of lack of IP protection in China remains the largest AI giant in the world, and there are many AI startups that are positioned to capture that within them. As I mentioned, one of our portfolio SenseTime. They also have 3,000 patents, and then they're ready to operate in the market based on just that application strength. And then China is, how did China get to the status that they are? They are very advanced in applications, even more advanced than the U.S. But then the U.S. has better talent, better R&D research method, and just capability in writing better algorithms. So I think what happened is in the government push is that they constantly combine public data with AI technologists and their capability. And that enables the algorithms to learn faster than any other countries. And for example, it enables Chinese facial recognition to beat Facebook's facial recognition inaccuracy. Because just of the gigantic volume of data they are able to crunch on, versus in the US, all your facial recognition data has to be privately sourced, and Facebook will be the largest network, where they have ready accessibility to that. I think they will remain uncontested as the largest tech giant in the world, and they also have, with the likes of Google and IBM in the US, they also have their BAT, Baidu, Alibaba, and Tencent driving and innovating the AI innovation wave. And I don't see the same in other parts of the Asian countries today. But I can see it uprising, for example, Grab in Asian countries. They are also working on autonomous driving. They're catching on. They also have their AI research lab. And let's talk about countries that may not have the same accessibility, like Japan and Korea. Although I think from an application perspective, they're nowhere near China. But I think they are actually quite well positioned to capture industrial automation just because of the nature of their countries. They have aging population, they have a limited workforce, and a lot of automation capability since World War II. And with that automation capability, they're very ready to capture any industrial AI innovation.
Great, thanks, Terry. I totally agree with you there. I know we're going a bit over time, but I did want to take some time to answer some questions from the audience. There are a couple here. I think we've addressed some of them. There are a couple of questions with regards to finding talent, AI engineering talent. So I think we've covered that. Here's one on cybersecurity, actually, directed towards Terry and Marie. So it's asking if you could just elaborate on the application of using AI in the area of cybersecurity. So Marie, maybe if you want to go first, and then Terry after.
No, I'm really not an expert in cybersecurity, so I would just let Terry say. I think you can have anomaly detection could be one aspect, I guess, and this is one of the things AI is doing well. But beside that, I'll let Terry go for it.
Yeah, Mary was very right in addressing one. So there are many aspects on cybersecurity that you can actually use AI. So first of all, cybersecurity is a big realm. So you start with malware detection, whether endpoint detection, to other even like managed risk detection, the more advanced type. So from malware, for example, you've heard of companies like Symantec, McAfee. In the past, they never really used AI, though. So they have a manual library with where their engineers will have to constantly update to match the zero-day attacks out there in the world. And one of our companies, Deep Instinct, uses deep learning to automate that process, and they can consistently beat the accuracy of the likes of capacity, McAfee, and Semantic. And that is one aspect of that. And actually, Marie also earlier touched on fraud detection. And fraud detection and endpoint detection, these are all different use cases where you can use maybe anomaly detection, which is like a behavior analytics method to, an AI behavioral analytics that you can capture how, maybe how hackers perform, or what areas are they trying to attack within your system, and to understand and then eventually automate that. So, and I think you will continue to see companies like maybe CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, or even newer version of that to deploy more and more machine learning capability within that.
Great, thanks, Terry. And maybe Marco, if you want to add anything to this as well. Oh, sorry, you're on mute. Okay.
I think Terry described it very well. Our mesh network, when you are under our mesh, it's extremely secure. And if you develop this in every cities in the world, it's going to be, and you process data locally, which is the opposite of everybody else. And when you process data centrally, this is when you are prone to hackers and people trying to get in and get your information. This would be a much more secure way of doing things and countering these cyber security issues. But this is when, of course, when we're going to expand, and so it's not today; it's on the way.
Okay, got it. Thanks, Marco. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting flagged that. Oh, sorry, did somebody?
Yeah, just to jump on what Marco was saying, yes, edge computing is one of the places where AI is also very much helping, and it's a domain where there's a lot of research being done and a lot of improvements still to be done. So it's a future growth of the market as well. And edge computing is bringing security by itself, because you transport less data, you expose less data. So this is also a way to use AI to protect data.
Yeah, totally. And we are working with Microsoft on this, on edge computing on the base. So we are able to collect and encrypt all the information locally.
Exactly.
Great. Yeah, and we've actually been seeing some pretty interesting, solutions at the chipset level to compute AI at the edge level as well.
Yeah, fully homomorphic encryption, which is a leading area in encryption. I think it will change how data works in the future, and it will make consumer data much safer.
And on that note, I'm getting flagged to end the call since we've gone quite a bit over time, and I know RJ needs his beauty sleep. So let's end things here. I'd just like to say again, a huge thank you to all our panelists today who have taken the time to dial in from all over the world, Hong Kong, Singapore, London, and LA. So thank you again, and especially to you, RJ, for staying up at such a late hour for us.
Carlos, thank you very much for having us.
Yes, thank you
so much, Carlos, for having me.
And good night.
Yeah,
pleasure meeting all my fellow panelists, Carlos, and all the attendees.
Thanks. Yeah, it was really fun, and if we hadn't run over time, I could honestly stay on with you guys for.
Sorry, but your fault. You got interesting questions.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But thank you as well to our audience for joining us today. I hope you found the conversation as enlightening as I did. And if you'd like to learn more or about the companies we discussed today, please do contact us at fundnel.com and subscribe to the platform to receive invites to future educational webinars we'll be putting on, as well as to explore some of the other deals we're working on as well in the venture capital space. And with that, thank you again to everybody. Please take care and stay safe.
Very good. Thank you, Carlos.
Thanks.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye, RJ. Bye, Terry.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.